Yeah, I'm just starting recording because I feel like what always happens to me is we'll have like really good conversation for like an hour
And then
talking
like we
about
should
what
have
we want to
recorded
talk
that.
about.
Yep.
And then by the time we then by the time we hit record, like, okay, yeah, that's like good topic. So let's record. I'm like tired. I was looking for articles for us to go over together and provide our um, analysis of or just opinions of really. And
Mhm.
as I was trying to look for articles, I was just in Google searching like automation industry news, life science industry news. And I was getting articles coming up from like 2021, 2022, 2023, but a lot of them were more advertisements for, hey, this is our new suite of modular automation equipment, and this company is planning on digitizing their environment, and here's where they're going to make the most money. It was stuff like that, right? So, um, because you've been in the industry obviously a really long time, and I always feel like you're in the know of kind of what's going on. What I wanted to ask you was like, what is your kind of key source and true way of just staying up to date of like what is happening in our industry so you can kind of react?
I think I'm in a privileged position because I get to talk to a lot of people that are trying to decide stuff. So I think that really helps because then you kind of get a sense of what problems are, say, for example, oh, we're doing a new project. What are you trying to decide? Okay, well, we're putting in this or that, and this is why, and we have to lower our cost or we have to be more flexible, and then you kind of get a sense of what problem they're trying to solve. And I don't, you know, my job is management now, so I don't do any engineering work anymore. Um, but you do get that sense of like what's on the horizon in terms of like what people value. So then that kind of allows you to kind of have the opportunity to kind of investigate or think about. So then you kind of end up sounding like you kind of have your finger on the pulse, but it's just the privilege of the information that you have access to. I think I love following the Walker Reynolds stuff. Right, I like the way he thinks. I think he's trying to add real value, and I think it's really cool how he's going about it. So, do I get a lot of ideas there and think about what he's saying? Absolutely, yeah. But then you think about like like a lot of us in Skellig, like we started like looking at the Walker stuff a couple of years ago, but like Amy Williams really took to it, and then you end up just in kind of conversations with someone like Amy, where you look at like a straightforward life sciences thing, and you start to be able to think about like how would we do this with what Walker's talking about, and then what would be the shortcomings? What do we need to how do we need to come up with better answers for life sciences? And then you just start looking at like the philosophy around 4.0, and then you start looking at like I bet a lot of those articles around digitization, they say a lot of the right things a lot of the time, um, but they usually gamify the data, or there's some gotcha
Mm-hmm.
around how you're going to end up paying more money for actual, the functionality you need, or you're not going to have access to the code, so it can't become part of the life cycle of the factory. You've just got some kind of wrapper document, or oh, it says it's delta v is very popular, right? So it's delta v, we'll deliver it with delta v code, and then you've got to figure out how to manage multiple delta v libraries, so it's technically the same platform but doesn't integrate well or doesn't work well with each other. The same is true of other platforms too. So like um, that's where the front line is then. So then when you're looking at problems or engineering solutions, you get to, you know, I think you get to hunt and peck and kind of parse it all together from that perspective, and then kind of think, okay, I like what these guys are saying. They're saying the right marketing thing, but it's not the right thing because the client is looking for flexibility. They're actually not going to get it with this, and that's a problem. Um, and then you end up trying to think about how to solve that.
Mm.
So
You described having a lot of personal relationships, which maybe keep you up to date on opportunities or maybe some insider industry news. Um, and then you use those relationships and that info, as well as maybe some of the articles and things I was describing that I encountered, more coming from big names, like if Siemens puts out uh, an article about how their technology is going
Mhm.
to be better. You're kind of using all the tools and knowledge um, to put maybe more context and to evaluate maybe more of the
Yeah,
more advertisement
it's
like
positioning.
headlines. You talked a little bit about Walker Reynolds and how you like the way he is going about um I don't know, creating content. Is that correct way of putting it?
No, well, it's deeper. All right, obviously he's creating like I don't like think his hair is cool or something, or the way he talks is fantastic. Like he's cool, right? That's fine. But like what he's trying to do, like his whole thing is like he sees, I guess, what's developing or not developing with the transition of or the advent of Industry 4.0. And he thinks America's a little bit asleep at the wheel. And unless someone like him really helps to educate and broaden the access to understanding of how manufacturing can take advantage of these technologies, that other parts of the world, they'll do a lot better at adopting these technologies. And America will fall behind again, like it did in the 80s. And like he points to like Kodak, and like he points to growing up in upstate New York and the damage that was done there by essentially poor visionary leadership in management to adapt these new technologies and ways of working at the time. And he sees it happening again, this time with the adoption of 4.0 and or the lack of. So his whole thing is to create and save middle class jobs in America. That's what he says his
Mm-hmm.
mission is. And Joe, I've been looking at him a long time. I think I've been looking at his stuff since like late 2018. That's when I first came across him. And to be honest, he's pretty bang on. He's very consistent. He's always tying it back to that. He's got this bigger mission, and then he does kind of act in accordance with that mission. Like he does create content. He does give away useful information for free. Um,
Right.
he does charge for useful information too, but it also pays for the free stuff that he's giving away. And he's built a really big community. And you don't build a big community by just being a figurehead. People want substance, especially in engineering. And he does have like this unified namespace idea and way of working is or moving data is very cool. It's very useful. So it's important, and that's why I've gravitated in towards it. You know.
Yeah. So I guess when you want to keep up with, what he's working on or what he's doing, are you following his content, or are you seeing like LinkedIn posts, or are you talking to him personally? Um, yeah, like I guess how do
No,
you
just
kind of
yeah,
all of the above?
yeah. I have talked to him one on one, but that's not where the source. No, it's all the free stuff. It's either the free stuff or it's Mastermind. I'm part of Mastermind, which is uh, a really good source.
Or
Um,
what's Mastermind? I
of
don't know what that is.
Yeah, so once a month he does a call where he'll discuss a topic like unified namespace, ERP, digital transformation, how you do a digital transformation maturity assessment, ERP, historians. There's always a topic, and basically, month by month, and then this builds up into a series of calls that's, accumulated now over nearly 3 years. I think it's every 2 weeks now or something like that. The call where it's free on YouTube and anyone can watch that.
Right.
Like that's one of his trademark things. He also does. He's got two programs: Mastermind and Mentorship. Mentorship is more meant for the technical boots on the ground engineers, and then Mastermind is more meant for end clients and people like me that you have a system integrate you're a system integrator, and you're trying to understand this stuff and kind of figure out how to make it useful.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more high level, a bit more less about the code, more about the strategy and the approach.
Ultimately, I'm not trying to make this a Walker Reynolds plug, but obviously, we're talking a lot about his
No.
his content and what's available to him. But really, what I'm trying to get to the heart to is just like for the everyday engineer that might be working at, um, a site. Whether you're a contractor working in Skellig, or let's say you've been at Pfizer your whole life, and you're doing your daily
Mhm.
work there. How do you get more involved, and what resources are available to you, to learn more about what's happening within the industry? It sounds like what Walker Reynolds is doing is a really good, I guess, resource. Maybe not specifically
Oh, it
what's
is, yeah.
happening within
All
life sciences, but what's happening within automation, and what can people look forward to, like in the future.
I think what Walker's saying is useful and it's relevant, life sciences or otherwise. But the thing about 4.0 is that it's more focused on data, and like a lot of, like, say what you and I would have done, like process automation, process control. We're more looking inwards. How are we going to control this bioreactor? How are we going to control this TFF? And maybe we get as high and mighty as a recipe that goes, manages a couple of units together. But when when I was doing that kind of work, no one was really talking to me about like an ERP system, or sometimes even MES, right, or any kind of thing further up the stack. So you'd no kind of idea of like what what would be important context from the plant floor up. Our world was more process control, DCS, and then you're in the customers manufacturing, the operations group, and if you built a good user interface and wrote good hold messages, they could figure out how to maintain the system and sustain it. That was good, right? But what's coming now and what you're seeing more from customers, and again, privileged position, I get to see what's coming in on the BD side of things and what clients are asking for. They're looking for flexible facilities. Um, they're looking to do different stuff than they did do. Like they want to be able to tech transfer quicker. They want to be able to um, make a new product faster. So that's the flexibility. They need more cost effectiveness, which they're not getting at all. And there's a huge gap in the market, especially in life sciences, when it comes to like cell and gene therapy and all that. Like, um, we don't have our act together at all collectively there, when it comes to automation for manufacturing. And there's a lot of tough stuff ahead because you've got a lot of single use manufacturers and they've got their automation packages, and those automation packages are expensive, and a lot of time they're not well set up to integrate into the broader factory system. And then I think people are feel forced to make choices where they accept suboptimal um, options. um, and when you don't have an ability to take a bioreactor from one manufacturer, a TFF from another manufacturer, and have it come together in a really seamless way where you can rearrange your equipment train and you don't have to, you know, spend a ton of money and effort and time revalidating, recoding, making it work with a holistic system. Um, when you don't have to do that, that'll be the day we'll make real progress. And it looks like collectively, to be honest, like right now we're not there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's no one, you can't say, oh, the OEMs are the problem. They're not. Like, like customers are buying this stuff, and, they're responding well to what the customers are asking for. So then you say, oh, so the customers are a problem. Well, they're not specifically the problem either. they're looking at the marketplace and their options, and then their service providers and what they're recommending. And if you say, well, that's tough talk, Paul, show me, it's like, yeah, we're getting there. And I think we are, but are we there yet? I I think it's a transitional time, and I think the people who are adopting 4.0 right now, from a data standpoint, it's pretty safe. But from a process control and all that sort of, that's breaking pretty new ground from a life sciences perspective.
Let's shift topics more onto that. And maybe I can start it off with the question within like the life sciences industry adopting 4.0 practices. Do you see a certain part of life sciences kind of where 4.0 can be utilized first? Because obviously it's not going to happen like all at once. You're not going to have your your whole equipment train
Mm-hmm.
from upstream all the way to final fill be utilizing kind of 4.0 practices all at the same time. If you do, that's going to be quite the accomplishment. But is there a place where it makes more sense that you kind of foresee it coming online a little faster?
There's the top down and there's the bottom up approach. And I think the top down, you're seeing a lot of business leaders inside and manufacturers, they want more from their plant floor, and they have higher expectations. And those expectations aren't going to be met by the automation managers trying to, do more with the same old tools. They need new tools. Um, they need 4.0 approaches, right? That's the only way to answer the business requests kind of coming in from upstairs. So where can you start? I think the unified namespace is pretty accepted now, and it's pretty commonplace, and it's like everyone, essentially, I think I can say everyone should be putting that in from a data perspective. And what that'll do for you is it'll help bring your business data and your plant floor data together, your data model and your data ontology for the whole, say, factory and factory within the business is very important. And then you can open up a whole lot of potential, business improvements by creating that structure. Because a lot of the data analytics teams right now, they're choked by access to poor quality data, and all that really means, you know, um, is that like the data is not in context, or it's been thrown up into an AWS server by hook or by crook, or Azure, whatever. It doesn't really matter, or it's stuck in a historian somewhere, and you can't really get it out cleanly. Um, that's that's a problem that's pretty safe to solve that one, right? That's pretty done. There's lots of evidence inside and outside of life sciences at this stage that like you can come around that one. That's good. I think where the new ground is being broken is you've got a lot of tried and true process automation, plant floor approaches, and it could be a lot better. And what a lot better means is getting more data into the hands of the operator and the end user, democratizing access to what's going on where. That's where the new ground needs to be broken, so that people can solve their own problems better on the plant
Mm-hmm.
floor. And the Walker Reynolds quote is like, your business is on the plant floor, and it is. And I think from a life sciences perspective, if you're asking where can people start and where should they be starting, everyone should be looking at a unified namespace and having that put in. So whether you've got old school DCS, a bunch of PLCs, whatever you have, if I'm building a factory with my own money and my house is on the line and everything, like, yeah, I want to put in a unified namespace. I want that data to be structured. I want groups being able to use and access that data free and clean. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm heart and a half behind that. Where we need to prove it out more is we need to do better at like bringing the whole thing together. So like the process automation on the plant floor, you look at the broader system and like, yeah, you can get a cheap edge device that can run some code, right? Sounds great. But how do you put it together into a cohesive ecosystem that actually solves a problem? That when you're thinking about making a batch, that you're like, yeah, this is, not just it's going to work 7 out of 10. This is going to work 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Um, you know, maybe 99 out of 100.
Do you know of any existing problems where you're like, oh, having if I had the best 4.0 architecture and all my data is available, if all that is done, are there any problems that you know of that's like, oh, this problem would immediately be solved? Can you think of anything?
Let's put it into context that maybe you and me are familiar with. Like our
Sure.
background is both plant floor automation.
Yep.
There's a lot more poor engineering out there around giving people access to what's the current status of the batch, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, you might say, well, no, 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 that's okay. You gown up, you go in and you stand in front of it, or you get to the control room and you can stand in front of it, or you have your OSI Pi access and you can track the batch. I think right now that anyone who needs to get access to that, there has to be a real business justification and they have to get access. Someone has to pay for a bunch of licensing to get them that access. I think number one, access to more data is inherently solved with 4.0. I think it is. It almost sounds too good to be true. It's not. That's just how it works. And I'm not talking about unbridled access to control. That's totally separate. But
Right.
access to the data, what's going on, what's the current state, what's happening right now, um, that that can be infinitely better than what it is. So access to understand what's going on, ease of use of manipulating data, richer context for what's actually going on. So you can make better judgment calls of, is this batch going well? Is it not going well? Just anything around that the operator or that an active participant in following the batch would want to know. Even if it's being manufactured at your CDMO and you're sitting at your desk at the parent company that has the product. Like 4.0 can really help you by piping that data. People have a lot more power to solve their own problems, so to speak. So, like, whereas like with the existing infrastructure, it's like, it's a big deal, right? Someone's got to write a business justification, and it'll take years to come to fruition. And I think that's changing. Like that democratization of access to that data, that's a huge game changer for effectiveness.
I mean, the place where my head always goes to, like more than just is our batch doing well or is it not doing well, is preventative maintenance. Like I think,
Yeah.
especially when you go back to saying there has to be some kind of business justification to make this an investment. I mean, to me, it's like
Mhm.
keeping your production line moving and making sure it never goes down. And my head always goes to, yeah, preventative maintenance. Maybe it's just
Mhm.
keeping track of how long a valve has cycled or how many times a valve has been cycled, um, or how long a pump has been running, right? Things that maybe data is getting captured, but it's not in a format where it can be utilized or digested. And I'm not gonna
Mhm.
that some other application would do that, but looking at that kind of data and then notifying a technician or a mechanic of when they should do something, and then taking that even farther and scheduling when they should do it and having the whole production schedule shift slightly. That's where I think a lot of the power is
Yep.
initially.
Yeah. Think of it this way: if you went into some of the existing facility with the existing infrastructure right now, they're like, okay, we're going to solve that. How? Okay, you'll start pulling some trends and piecing together some ideas. Oh, well, no, let's add some sensors, right? It's not going to cost that big. I found a sensor, it's $50 and it's a vibration monitor and we can tell if the pump is acting weird or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? What infrastructure do you add that into? Okay. And this is where it gets crappy then, because you start going point to point. Oh, now you've got to historize that. Now it's a big costly project because you've got to You've got to get that point into up through your DCS into your historian, and then now you've got licensing two places, a validation effort in two places. Your costs are going to grow there, and then there's going to be, are we really going to benefit from that? And it kind of kind of kills the mood around solving the problem. That's why kind of we're so high on the unified namespace idea, especially with open. You have to use open technologies, and what that means is it's easy to integrate. You buy the sensor for $50, you map it to the unified namespace, you're done. That's your validation. Now anything that wants to subscribe to that and get data off of that, they can. If you historize that, you can historize that with a historian that costs a lot for points, or you can use one that's like Canary, like, again, not an ad, but like just for Canary Labs, where like, it's just the philosophy. It's like, well, you can pay for an enterprise license. I think it's like 100 grand, like enterprise. That means no limit to tags, and that's ridiculous value. Because then, and that's the mindset shift. People in manufacturing should be a little angrier with like the vendors right now, because they're blocking them solving their own problem because they want their piece of it, and they see
Mm-hmm.
they see how value the data is. Every meme you see says, oh, data is like the new gold or whatever. Okay, fine, but what are vendors actually doing to enable people to use or access that data? They're being very clever and careful about it, and they're kind of blocking it a lot of places because they want to create another transaction, and that's where it gets really tricky. So when you're doing the 4.0 approach, you're looking for a philosophy of open, um, sharing, easy access to data. So you're not just good at ingesting it, you're also good at sharing it out. um, because like a lot of the facilities, let's say now or go back a couple of years, you know, um, the conversation might be around, well, if we're going to do analytics, which package should we choose? And you kind of do a whole business justification, it takes ages. Why? Well, because if you're going to plug something in, it's going to be an inherent part of the whole infrastructure. And that's, I hope this is making sense, Greg, but like that's just not the way to think about this stuff anymore. It's like if you like something, you can try it out, but it's a node in the ecosystem, so you can easily remove it if it's not effective or it gets bought out by a company that wants to up the licenses and it's no longer relevant, or it solved the problem, but now there's something better, right? Go back 5-10 years, the kind of choices you had was you had to decide what are you baking into the infrastructure of your house, whereas now it's much more like your internet, your local internet. If you don't like the functionality of your printer, you can safely remove your printer without taking down the whole, someone can be still on the Xbox, in the other room, and you
Mm-hmm.
can add a new printer, the whole shebang, you know. That's that's where factory expectations need to be now, is around like ease of adding and removing of these technologies, lower barrier to entry to add value,
Yeah,
prove
like
out that you can create some value. And then to your point, like around um, the can I predict stuff? Can I predict? Yeah, there's packages out there that do that. And if you can plug them into an ecosystem that has rich access to data, that's why that unified namespace architecture is critical, because then those packages aren't worth anything if they don't have access to that data. But if they do have access to that data, then you're getting a lot more value than what you paid for. Brilliant. You're off to the races. And then the energy will pick up and you'll be like, oh my God, we're solving problems. Yeah, you're solving your own problems. And that's where I see the joy in the 4.0 stuff too. And it's like,
yeah.
oh, it's cool.
It seems like there, with what you're talking about, there needs to be really clear separation of like responsibilities. Like going back to your house analogy, like a printer just tries to be a printer. It doesn't try to be anything else. It just says, "Hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm good
Mm-hmm.
at. This is how you send me information, and this is my inputs, and these are my outputs." I wonder if now there's too
Mm-hmm.
many things that try to be, yeah, not having. a specialty, a specialized feature, but more or less trying to do a lot of things uh, not well, right?
Yep. And that's where I think there's huge opportunity. Well, that's one of the 4.0 things too. Is like, so the old school way is knowledge is power, and the new way is like, well, you share it out, and then ideas build on each other. And you know, yes, there is proprietary information at some level, but like at a certain level, we need to be sharing more ideas and talking more openly so we can collectively get better at solving the problem. Because at the end of the day, a lot of this technology stuff is just like handbag arguments, and tit for tat kind of stuff. When
Yeah.
like getting really genuinely better at making cell therapies, getting really genuinely better at increasing manufacturing capacity, when there's cures being invented for diseases now and things like cancer, like that's it, man. Like that's actually there. Like the
Mm-hmm.
science can do some of this stuff, and then we can't manufacture enough of it, or it's a huge amount of cost for the dose. And you could be like, well, that's not all manufacturing costs. It's not, but it's part of it, and it's part of the justification for why it's so high. So we can have that impact with the virtual plant. Like there is that problem. Like there's not a neck to choke. Like if you go to an existing legacy supplier, you can get their option from a PLC perspective. You can get their batch option. You can get their controller option. You tie it all together, but you dealt with one. They guarantee that it's all going to work together. And right now, when you look at like the open architecture, the technology is really cheap. Like, and oh, you want an MQTT broker? You know, that's fine, easy, low cost, right? A manager can buy it. Um, oh, you want some PLCs? Cool. Edge devices, edge controllers. Cool. No problem. Couple of grand, like 2 or 3 grand, right? You've got a good one. Maybe even less, couple of $100, like real cheap, cost effective stuff. And then you put it all together. Um, you're going to come out, you're going to make out like a king.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's real good value for what it delivers. The problem is when you come to life sciences and you look at like a decision maker in a life sciences facility, who do they go to when it doesn't work, or when there's a hot fix on this one and this one now doesn't work because there was a hot fix here? Who, even if that's imaginary and that's not a real problem, the perception is reality. So who is actually taking responsibility for that? I think that's a missing piece in the marketplace right now. And I could see legacy providers, you add a broker technology, you copy some of this 4.0 stuff, and you do just good enough, you might make out like a bandit because you're going to show up like the safer bet. So I don't quite know if that's something like that Skellig or a company like us should step into, but I think that's a need where like someone's got to be the neck to choke when it doesn't work. So like when I think about
Not
the
me.
virtual factory and like what our yeah, not you, um, when you think about like how these technologies come together, I think there's a role there, and I think Skellig should. I think we are thinking about it, right? Should we be that? Because if you're the end client and we make a recommendation that says put this in, and then 2 years from now there's a hot fix or there's a technology change or the market shifts and that's going out of business and you need to pull it out and replace it, where's the guarantee? Who's got your back? Who guarantees that that's it's all going to be okay?
To have that level of confidence, um, you need testing, like almost stress
Okay.
testing, right? And
Yeah.
you need to be able to get your hands on any type of product and be able to integrate it right into your vertical slice, and then like give a review on it, right?
Like we're kind of doing that now because with the virtual factory, right? We're trying to prove out that started like, let's try to prove out, does this technology do what it said it would do? Because sometimes the marketing material, oh, we haven't added that feature yet, or who told you it could do that? That's not done yet.
Mm.
Or, that's in our pipeline, but it's not, no, it's on your website and it says you do it. And it's like, so then
Yeah.
you're credible. So if you're recommending that technology, that's your trust that's on the line with that customer.
Oh, for sure.
So it's a
Yeah.
dangerous place to be. So you want to prove that out. So that's where the virtual factory has started, like, and that's what it's for. So if we're recommending something, then I know Amy's kick the tires and Bill's kick the tires. We at least know that whatever we're recommending it for, that it can do that, and there's some stress testing. But then could we build on that stress testing? Because at some point, if that technology becomes less relevant or something better comes along, can we come up with a clean way to recommend that as an alternative for clients? So then you could show up to a client then, and the client can be like, okay, we're going to go with your 4.0 recommendation. You're recommending this here, you're recommending this here. Yes. And if it doesn't work for you, we'll take responsibility. I think that's kind of where things need to go, because this open stuff, the other way to mature it is the end clients themselves, that they adapt a deeper understanding of these technologies, and they have their own teams or global teams or whatever that like stands over that. And then, just like the IT department, if a new feature comes out or some new thing comes out, they'll evaluate that. And that's the other way to go with it too, I think. But it's definitely a shift from what we're doing today.
Yeah. Can I offer an alternative? What you're suggesting, it's like our clients, like we're backing a product and then the clients use the product and ultimately they are providing a review of that product based on their needs, right? What if we were the reviewers? So instead of letting our
Yep.
clients be the reviewers, we're getting approached by some company, let's say Flow comes out and they say, hey, try out Flow. And we'll say, okay, yeah, we hook it up to our vertical slice. We see what it can do. We provide a review. And then we say, wow, this is awesome. 9 out of 10 stars. And then our clients say, oh, 9 out of 10 stars, we'll put that in. Maybe that's a little too similar with what you're describing. But like if we
No,
came
no, no.
back and
It's
said
not. It's just we don't.
6 out of 10,
Yeah.
6 out of 10, it does a lot, but it's missing some of these things that are on their website that
Yep.
says they can do this, but it,
Yeah.
it can't. And then our client says, we still want to go with it anyways because they're really cheap. Let's, for example, I have no idea what the cost of Flow is, but just
Exactly.
examples. So they
So,
go with it and then they
mhm.
come back to us and they say, well, this isn't doing any of the things that it said it could do. We said, well, we only gave it 6 out of 10, and you chose to install that, kind of making them get some skin in the game, but still approaching the
Yeah.
industry as Skellig always does with kind of honesty. But I think maybe developing like
That's the.
that prevents us from like backing a technology or a partnership with another company that might go sour, because if we partner with these technologies, we're not in control of their decisions and what they decide to do with their product. So it's almost like I see the future remaining as like neutral as possible and just trying to promote the
Oh, absolutely.
products that go out there and
Absolutely.
and deliver a high quality product.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
You're right on the money there. Like the thing, so all our partnership agreements, any software or anything like that, I don't think we've many, but like any ones that we do have a partnership, like there's no sales agreement. We're not beholden to sell that versus something else. Like it's clean as a, we're looking for we'll work with someone if they're clean as a whistle from that regard. But if they have expectations or they want us to pick one thing versus another, what we want for engineers is to be able to make the best choice possible for whatever the technical problem is. That's what you want. If platforms can adhere to that, then that's fine. We'll work with them. But if they're not, then you can't really get started because the philosophy is wrong. So without a good philosophy behind it, you're going to run into trouble. But I totally agree with you. It's kind of like a Rotten Tomatoes kind of thing, but where you kind of give us a user score. We don't have anything um, formal like that yet, and that's where I kind of agree with you. And I think you could evaluate a lot and give it a score, and that would be very useful to the broader community. If you call up Walker Reynolds or John McKeown from Gallerus or someone like that, right? They're going to have looked at some of this technology, and they'll all have I say, oh yeah, we looked at that. They don't have this or this, or we wanted them to have this, so we gave them that feedback. Blah blah blah. Everyone's kind of looking at these technologies and trying to evaluate them, but yeah, there is room for a standard score. The
Hmm.
problem with someone like maybe Skellig doing it or some company doing it is like, how are you assured of independence? Just because I said it.
I was gonna say it reminds me a lot of like YouTubers that just review products and they say,
Yeah.
this product was sent to me for free, but I swear this is my honest opinion. So
Yeah, it's delicious.
oh yeah.
Like this has been done before, where like you know, say within the one ecosystem, they've said, look, if you use this stuff this way in this configuration, we'll stand over that it'll work. And that's what I think there is.
Mm,
There's room for today, and that's what I want us to be able to look at, and we try to work towards that as best we can. And
yeah.
if it's useful, but the market is changing, and like for anyone like right now, it's just if you're an engineer on the plant floor, it's kind of trying to lift your head up to think about how can you do more to understand how what you're building might be used, or how you could publish different data out of it, or how you think about your part in the broader ecosystem. And I'd advise any engineer now to do a little bit more to understand how a factory comes together, rather than just the plant floor. Like not just the equipment train up and down that, but like what's an ERP system and why should I care? If you haven't, MES, you don't need to be an MES expert, but you need to understand the patchwork quilt of what goes on in there. It's different in life sciences versus a lot of other
Hmm.
um, you know, areas. Like you go outside of life sciences and it's like all OEE, but you're inside life sciences. It's like the batch record, the EBR, or those kinds of pieces of functionality. What are the challenges they have? Okay, they're trying to follow Alcoa and stuff like that, and then it sounds simple on the surface, but then you dive in and it's like, ooh, this is quite the saucy challenge technology wise. But more engineers looking at these kinds of problems, that's what's going to help us.
All right, I'll let you
That's
go.
right. We'll talk again. But thanks for doing this too. I really appreciate it.